Welcome back to another episode of the Startup Therapy Podcast. This is Ryan Rutan, joined as ever by my partner, the CEO and founder of Startups.com, Wil Schroeder. Wil, as founders, we run hard most of the time, all of the time, 24/7, and we feel like we have to. You and I both know there's a diminishing return on this and that breaks are important, but when was the last time you felt good about taking a break?
Never. That's the problem.
I knew I wasn't going to like the answer to this. I knew I was not going to like the answer to this. So that's why we're talking about this today, everybody.
I'm the worst
That's
candidate
why,
for
because
this.
that's the wrong answer.
This whole topic is actually about me.
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, I've been run till failure guy since the beginning for almost 30 years running. My only break has been when my body fails, and we've done whole episodes on how wonderful that was when that moment when that moment came. But I think what we can talk about today is how to kind of break some of that cycle, because I think as founders we've got this Iron Man philosophy that we just have to push through for the entire journey, and that we just have to keep running hard, and we have to just hold up until we make it past the end, and that'll solve for everything. And we totally overlook what we look like at the end of that journey. It's not positive. It's not the ticker tape parade we think it is.
It has costs laden with costs throughout, right? It's not just at the final bill that comes due. We lose efficiency, we lose efficacy, we lose all these things along the way because we're burnt out. I mean, the science tells us that after 24 hours without sleep, we're legally drunk, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've definitely operated this business legally drunk more than once. Not always because of loss of sleep.
We've operated drunk in many ways, but we've got this fetishization of this hard work, right? This hustle porn, if you will. And I was the biggest proponent of it, right? So I'm not pointing fingers here.
You were the Hugh Hefner of startup hustle porn.
Oh, it was so bad. It was so bad. And we've talked about this where I was like, I worked 100 hours a week for 20 years, and it's kind of true. But it was just
show
dumb.
me the badge.
Yeah, I can show you a lot of things.
I didn't
none
get
of them are
one.
positive. But look, man, I think the problem that we run into is we've got this concept that startups are all about, nonstop hustle, drive, et cetera. And that sounds courageous and it sounds amazing,
Sure does.
except it doesn't actually work. And someone's going to come back and say, bullshit, the only way to make it, this is Gary Vee, the only way to make it is to kind of push through and crush and crush.
I was just going to say,
everything
Gary
Vee
is like punching the screen right now somewhere.
And I think what's wildly missing in all of that, that kind of rah-rah cheer, is that you actually don't perform well when you
don't
when you take it to that level. When you say, I'm just never going to sleep and I'm always going to work on my startup, which is great if you want to kill yourself and actually be a shitty performer. I think that's the part I want to kind of turn inside out, because we've tried it. It doesn't work.
We have. I mean, look, just think about, and we've used this analogy in a couple other ways. I try not to use sports analogies, but we are the pro athletes of the business world, right? Leaders, CEOs, founders, we're the pro athletes of the business world. Recovery is an extremely important part of high performance. If you want to be high performant, you have to recover. You have to. It's not optional. It's enforced, right? And I actually track some of this data now with this little guy. That's been pretty fun. And I pushed myself to exhaustion actually on Sunday, and I have the stats to prove it. And then it made me say, okay, cool. I need to take it a little bit easier for the rest of the day. I need to take it easy on Monday. And these things are important, right? So yes, let's unpack. Let's talk about, I think you said you want to start with milestones around when can we decide that it's okay to take a break. And by the way, guys, it's okay to take a break anytime you feel tired, worn out, about to be exhausted, because trying to push through that has absolutely zero benefit. Right? You're going to do bad work or no work, or you're going to hurt yourself, or all three. So welcome to that fun. Let's talk about how to avoid that.
Well, I think the first thing that's important for people to understand is that we have to find milestones in our work, right? And a lot of people say, well, I'll take a break at 12 o'clock kind of thing. Not really what we're talking about here. Yes, that's important.
No.
What we're talking about are the longer term breaks. The longer term
Yes.
break being, I've been working for 18 months without a break. Your body and mind don't function 18 months without a break. And maybe you're some superhero Avenger that you do. Fine, don't listen to this episode. For 99.9% of everyone else, this is how it actually goes, right? The way it actually goes is we have to find some milestone in our journey. Let's say, for example, we say, look, 2 months from now, and I'm going to use that as a cutoff, I'm scheduling a vacation, or I'm just taking some kind of deliberate cutoff from the business. And I have to set that milestone. Maybe what I start doing is planning all of the company milestones around that date, right? In other words, saying, okay, software is going to get released, our marketing is going to launch, etc. What we don't do, we never set the milestone. So what ends up happening is we don't have a specific milestone, and we let the company's milestones kind of just drive whenever we have free time, which just doesn't, it never works because
never.
Here's the missing part of that. The missing part is that left to its own devices, the company offers no breaks. Your startup has no natural breaks other than shutting down. And that is not a natural break you want to plan around.
No, not a natural break. It's a goldfish. It will grow to the size of its bowl.
100%.
Right? It will consume whatever time you allow it to. There's always something else that can be done.
Right.
The question becomes, should it be done, and should it be done now?
Right.
And I think this is where we really get it twisted. So I like the concept of milestones. I'm trying to go back in time now. So the last time you did recently take a quick break, you took a week.
Mm-hmm.
You headed off.
It was my anniversary.
And spent some time on the beach.
Yeah. That milestone comes every year.
That's a good milestone.
Yeah. According to my wife,
and that's one you're not allowed to forget. You're definitely not allowed to forget one, and the company can't get in the way of it. So but did you need that permission? Was that the only reason that you did it?
I got to say, this is a great question. We've been doing this long enough, Ryan. We're at almost 10 years with startups.com. We've been doing this long enough that I'm now used to having permission to take those breaks. The difference is early in my career, actually most of my career, if I'm being honest, I never gave myself permission to take those breaks. And more importantly, I never saw a milestone. I always thought that milestones kind of came naturally in the progression of the business. In other words, we just launched a product, and therefore that's a good time to take a break. That'll be obvious. No, it's not. Because by the time we launch the product, we now have customer support issues. We've got marketing and customer acquisition issues. It's always something, right? There are no natural breaks in a startup. We have to force the milestone. We have to be able to say, look, whatever the timing is, 2 months from now, et cetera, that's the milestone. We plan it just like we plan software or launches or anything else like that. And we have to make it part of our DNA of the company. Otherwise, we're screwed. This thing will drag on forever.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because each milestone then leads to another one anyways. I mean, like you said, now we've launched the product. Yay. Now we can all go home. Nope. Yep. Now you got to market it. Now you got to support it. Now you got to sell it. Now you got to modify it. Right. It's like, I remember somebody talking to me about wanting to push really hard their last couple semesters at university and finish early. They were like, I'm gonna push really hard, and then I'll have a breather. I'm like, after this it's work, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's not university's over, massive celebration. You're not European. You don't get a gap year. You get to go start. You get to go line up and find a job, right? That's what you're going to be doing.
At the beginning of the race.
And it's the same thing in the startup, right? Every little victory leads to a new battle, right? And nothing wrong with that,
right?
But we got to have a chance to regroup. So yeah, I mean, I'm technically right now I'm traveling. I'm certainly not on vacation yet, and I'm having trouble with that. We're going to be in the U.S. for the next, I think, 3 weeks, and I have yet to even think about scheduling any full time off.
Of course.
Right. I haven't. I mean, I'm here, right? I should. And yet I'm like, when could I do that? We've got this thing happening. We've got that thing happening. And some of them are really arbitrary, right? Like it could happen at any point.
Yep.
And yet, because they're already there and I can see them, I want them to happen. And I don't want to do anything else until they happen.
Right.
And this becomes the problem. So I need to sit down at the end of this episode and take our own advice and say, okay, I'm going to draw a line. This is the milestone that will get this piece done, And then I'm going to take a week off, and I'm going to spend it with my parents who I haven't seen in almost a year. I'm going to take my kids to the beach. I'm going to do some fishing. I'm just going to do some stuff, right, that's not startups.com. And
Right.
that'll be good for me. And I need that because it's been a long time. And yet I'm still struggling with it. I'm like,
If you don't set the milestone, no one sets it for you, right? Now,
no, nobody's going to be like, Ryan, here's your week off.
Here's the difference. If you have a boss that you're reporting to, right? And you say, hey, I want to schedule this PTO, and they can say yes or no, regardless of whether or not you like that encumbrance, it at least gives you permission, quite literally, to take the time off, right? They said, yes, it is okay to take it. Our problem is there's nobody to go to, right?
Right.
We're our own boss.
I have to go into our payroll system and approve my own PTO.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
how weird is that?
Yeah. And as bosses go, we're complete assholes, right? Because in our mind, we can always work harder, right? In our mind, that vacations or that time off is never warranted. That's the problem.
Right.
And so I think for folks going through this, for folks killing themselves, if you look back and you say, when is the last time the business clearly gave me an indication that now is a good time to take it and I should feel good about it? My guess is you're going to come back with, never.
Never.
Dude, I'm in this 30 years, and never is exactly the answer I've gotten every single time. And so what I've also learned is, as founders, we're really good at planning stuff, right? Why do we suck so badly at this, right? Why is this the one thing that could probably help us the most that we are just terrible at doing?
It lacks the objectivity and the obvious outcomes of so many of the other things that we plan, right? We plan for things that are more tangible. We plan for things that are more visible. We plan for things that impact the company and other people, and not for things that impact ourselves. Like, we've talked about this, that startups are built at the expense of the founder.
Absolutely.
Right? That's sort of a deal we make with ourselves right at the beginning that we should not, but we do. And therefore, a couple episodes ago, we talked about North Star, right? Having a North Star for the business. But I think the North Star of the founder is, I will do this at all costs.
Right.
And I think that's a really, really dangerous North Star. But I think it's the one that we sort of develop early on, and we don't realize that there is a point at which we can change that, right? Sometimes in the beginning, you've just got to be hustle, right? Just grind your way through it and burn. But then there has to be a period of recompense for that, right? You've got to make up for that loss, because you are building a debt and a deficit there that has to be replaced, or it hurts the business, it hurts the team, it's certainly hurting you as the founder. And like you said, you've just got to pick a point in time, a milestone, an arbitrary date, whatever it is, and just say, like, look, I'm going to use this period to recover. And so why don't we talk about the benefits of some recovery?
That became the hack for me, actually.
Yeah.
See, up until then, I always thought vacation was this namby-pamby thing, 2 words I've never said out aloud until now, by the way, that other people did, that weaker founders did, not me, right?
Yes, exactly.
I'm Thor, I will power through. And to be fair, I did for a really long time.
Right.
And frankly, probably because I could. Here's what would happen, though.
Yep.
I had milestones baked in every quarter. They're called getting sick. And so here's how it would go.
Yes.
I'm talking for 20 years running, right? This is how dumb I am. I would just run failure. And so basically by the end of every quarter, you can probably remember this, my body would just shut down and I'd be in bed sick for usually 2 weeks. I get sick for a really long time. And but I would look at that as my built-in, not vacation, but like my recovery period. Not thinking, not like putting the math together, that the whole reason I'm here is because I didn't take a break.
Avoid this.
And by the way, getting sick is not a recharge moment, right? Getting sick is like losing more hit points, right? It's not putting them back.
That's exactly it. And then you're just recovering from being sick, which puts you right back to where you started at the point where you got sick.
So
you don't
bad.
Come away from that refreshed. Yeah, it was funny. My wife was actually the one that pointed it out, caught it for me. At the point at which, and this goes back probably 4 years now when we started to be better about this as a team, about watching out for each other. And we'll talk about that later, but about being able to feel okay about at least slowing down or being honest with ourselves about what we're doing. She said, she's like, this year you didn't have any of your like sleep sick thingies that you do. And I was like, what? She said, yeah, like every year, a couple times a year, you do that thing where like you're in bed for 3 days, but you say you're not really sick. I'm like, you're right. I haven't done that. And then I thought, and damn, you're right. I have pretty much done that every year for all of my adult life, school included. Right. And there were times where I wondered what it was. At some points, I thought I remember specifically in college, I thought maybe I go through periods of depression because I just didn't want to get out of bed. Mm-hmm. Turns out it's called exhaustion.
Yep.
Right. There is a specific diagnosis, and it's just running yourself to the point where your body chemically literally has no energy to continue fighting. Right. And so that was my thing. Right. I didn't have other symptoms. Right. I remember with yours, you would run yourself probably right to the point of exhaustion so that your immune system was so run down that pretty much anything could jump on board and take over for a while.
It's amazing.
And you just run yourself into the ground and be out, right? And mine was the same thing, except I would just literally lay in bed for 3 days, like asleep, like nearly 24 hours a day for a couple of days. And that was just what my body needed because I put it in that position in the first place, which is pretty dumb. Right. Well, so, yeah, long story short, neither of us are good at understanding our limits.
We are now.
And sometimes that has a benefit and sometimes it has a real cost. And we've faced both of those consequences.
The funny thing actually is a while back, I think it was like 7 years ago. I can't remember, I dated exactly. I actually took a vacation, like a bona fide vacation, kind of by accident. I think it was once again, I think it was our first or second anniversary. And my wife was like, look, we got to take like a real vacation. Yeah. And so we did. And, but it was 2 weeks. That's the part I'll never forget. I can't remember where we booked. The story would have a little more color if I did. And week one, nothing changed. You know how I do. Like I'm on my laptop the whole time, whatever, right? But week 2 kicked in, and all of a sudden, I was like, I'm not at work. And then like I just kind of got into vacation mode for a second. Well, this crazy thing happened. Lo and behold, a week later, I come back and I'm rested.
Yeah.
Something I'd never been before.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was about.
Right.
And guess what? I come back to work and I've got a full head of steam, Ryan.
Yes.
The kind of head of steam that I hadn't had in years.
Right.
And I remember thinking to myself, what is this superpower?
Yeah.
Rest.
Right. Recovery.
How can I harness it? And that's where the hack started for me.
Yeah.
The hack started because at that moment, I realized that if I recharged, I could do more work.
Yes.
And as insane as this is, all of a sudden I could justify rest by saying I can do a lot more work. And more importantly, I could be better at my work if I rest. Is that the right justification? Absolutely not.
No.
Did it work? 100%.
There you go.
And now, ever since then, now I look at my rest periods as this supercharged like power-up moment.
Yeah.
That when I come back, I'll be able to work so much more effectively. Yes. And it's true. By the way, the rest of the world already knows this. But for founders, because we tend to just not give ourselves breaks, we lose sight of this. We forget how inefficient we are when we run ourselves into the ground.
We just keep running on fumes endlessly, right? And without reason, right? Because again, like you stop for a few minutes, you stop for a few days, you stop for a week. The efficiency, the energy that you gain back, and the acceleration that comes after that far outstrips whatever it was you were dragging across the goal line prior to that, right? It's just, but it's so hard to see in the moment, right? It's like, I just can't stop until this one more thing is done, right? I just can't quit until I finish X marketing campaign, or this product is shipped, or this client is fully satisfied, serviced, and done and invoiced, or whatever it is that's got you holding on well beyond the point of your efficiency and effectiveness. And it's so hard to see in the moment, right? Because again,
Right.
we're just focused on that one thing, and we know that we can do it. I think that's part of the problem. We know we can muscle through. We'll find a way to get it done. The part that we're missing is that if we keep dragging along at this pace, it might take us 3 more weeks to finish. Or we could take a week off, come back, finish it in a week, and be a week ahead. And yet we never, ever, ever do the calculus on that and look at it in that way. It just doesn't happen.
But we do it daily, Ryan. Like what ends up happening is we say, hey, we're going to do a 16-hour day.
Right.
Who at the end, in the tail end of 16 hours, has anywhere near their peak performance, right? I would argue that for most folks, best case, on a fully recharged day, your first day back from recharging, you've got at most 4 solid hours of maximum productivity.
Sure.
And I'm being generous.
Yeah.
And after that, it bottoms out fast.
Yep.
So anybody that tells me I've got 16 productive hours, I've got 2 responses to that. Number 1, bullshit.
Right.
Number 2, what you're telling me is that you've got this beeline of perfect productivity the entire day. Yeah. Impossible. Physically, mentally, that cannot happen.
Exactly.
Secondly, I would argue, what the hell were you doing that took you 16 hours? If you're so efficient, why did it take you 16 hours, right? Why couldn't you have done it in half the time?
Yep.
What I started to pace myself with wasn't the number of hours I could work. It was the opposite. And this is when everything changed. It's how can I get the same amount of work done in half the time?
Sure.
And instead of, again, being so heroic about the number of hours, I started to get heroic about efficiency.
Yeah.
I dug really, really, really deep. And I started monitoring all of my time.
Yeah.
15-minute increments.
Yep.
And I started to say, where did my day go exactly? And I guarantee if I did it for someone else, it would be hilarious how incredibly inefficient and how much bullshit you thought was so, important was not.
Right.
And so we're broken on all these metrics is the problem.
Yeah. You and I both did this. We went through the exercise of spreadsheeting out and like charting our time. And we both found that we had these like golden periods of creativity, of analytical productivity. And it was interesting because they were at different times of day, right? Like you and I had different periods at which we were creative and or analytical and or just had like grind out and like write copy mode or whatever it was. And understanding when those periods were and aligning the work with it was the huge hack around the productivity, right? And
100%.
It also, I felt less tired after figuring that out because it turns out when your brain's in creative mode and you force it to do nothing but analytical work, it doesn't like that very much, right? And you're not going to have good output at those periods. Right. And so knowing when, like those golden hours of productivity where you're at your peak performance and using them, it's really, really critical. Right. And that was a great exercise to go through and it'd probably be worth doing again. I would imagine some things have changed. The last time I did that, I had 1 child and a full head of hair. So I would imagine some things about the dynamics of my day have probably also changed. But it's been, when did we do that? 6, 7 years
it was
ago?
a long time ago, but I mean, it rings just as true. Over the years, we've gotten better, partially because we had to about taking breaks, right? A late night meant we weren't with our kids, not an option, right? Yep. And so I think we got some hard breaks built in. But if we were still in our 20s and we had no encumbrances in that way, there would have been nothing obvious to me. But here's the hack again. The hack is that if I've got 16 hours to work today, I have to look at anything beyond my core 4 or, wherever I think my core hours are. Yeah. Has a liability attached to it. And what does that mean? That means if I work 8 hours, I'm probably okay. But if I work 9, 10, 12, 14 hours, every additional hour I work is a liability because it's taking away 1 for 1 for the hours that I'll have tomorrow. Yeah. You're literally taking directly out of the peak hour energy bank. Yep. Something I learned when I was playing hockey, right? A lot of people don't realize that. They think if you're on skates, you're just gliding around. Playing hockey is actually like one of the most intense, like a good hockey player on the ice will get 1 minute to a minute and a half of peak time, and they have to come off the ice. That's how intense it is, right? What I used to think was I'm not a good hockey player unless I try to play for like 6 minutes, right? not realizing that after the first minute and a half,
Right.
I was now a shitty hockey player, right? And everybody was skating circles around me.
Yeah.
And so what I've started to adopt was this mentality that I need to get off the ice. I need to be able to go in, crush it with, that minute and a half, so to speak, or 4 hours in business time, and then get off, reset, and keep getting back on with maximum energy and stop mortgaging my good energy for what's really a half-assed attempt.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I still do it all the time. I'm not great at it, but at least now I understand it.
And I think we've gotten better about picking and choosing what happens during those hours, right? Like I don't do mission critical stuff when I know I'm not at my peak, right? I don't think through strategic stuff. I may grind out some tactical work. It's like, okay, got to go through and make sure all these workflows are running. Great.
Right.
I can do that almost in my sleep, right? But not when I'm actually asleep. So you go through to do those kind of things, right? But it's about picking and choosing your battles and the timing of them, right? Which goes back to prioritization. Another thing that founders seem to struggle with, right? It seems that we have some trouble with prioritization at times. We get our blinders on. Whatever it was that we were myopically focused on becomes the most important thing in the world. And I think that's the other reason that leaning back and getting that break, right? Taking that time, the other untold benefit here is a little bit of perspective, right? Because when you're not in grind mode, when you're not heads down 16 hours just beating away at the keyboard or whatever it is you're doing, you can actually get this nice, broad, holistic view of the business. So even during rest, right, I mean, let's be honest. Do we ever stop thinking about our startup companies? Very rarely. Right.
Very,
That's
very
a whole
rarely. Other episode. We'll cover that one.
Right. So it's still there and nothing wrong with that. Right. But like the beauty of coming out of those periods where you weren't so myopically focused on like one aspect of the business is that you get this broader perspective and you make sure that thing that you're really, really obsessing about right now actually fits into the bigger picture in an important way. Right. Because it's really easy to get caught in the tactics. I talked about this a couple episodes ago, but I've always found that one of the hardest things to do as a founder is to know when to zoom in and when to zoom out. And being able to do that at pace, right? Being able to say like, okay, I got to go laser focus on this for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, but now I got to zoom back out and make sure that while I was down there in my rabbit hole, that the rest of the world didn't change in a way that made that irrelevant or that something else has come up that really needs my attention. And that in itself can be exhausting. So these periods where we stop are a really good time to let the lens zoom out a little bit and to gain some perspective on the overall business. But given that we know that we're not particularly good at this as individuals, let's talk about like how we as founders can help each other to be better at this.
That's a hack that we just kind of naturally came to.
Yep.
Between all of us, really across the management team, is we started to realize that the only way to get permission to take a break was to give permission.
Right.
And so this interesting thing happened where we were all running ourselves into the ground and we kind of came together collectively and said, you know what? Like, none of us want to take a break because we assume nobody else can take a break. Like we feel guilty. We don't have permission.
Yep.
And every time we say, hey, I'm going on vacation, in our minds, there's this collective groan to be like, must be nice kind of thing.
Yeah. Must be nice to take a vacation every 4.5 years, you jerk.
Must be nice to see your kids. And so we did this thing where we basically said, look, when one of us takes a break, let's all agree that that's a good idea.
Yes.
Right? At the very least,
celebrate
let's implicitly, inexplicitly give permission.
Yeah.
That good. Go take it, unplug, etc. And kind of allow us to feel good about it.
Right.
Now, this really interesting dynamic happened. Every single time one of us would say, I'm taking a break, and 5 other people said, hey, sounds good, enjoy that vacation, blah, blah, blah. What we really did was give 5 other people permission to also take a break.
Right.
Because no one felt like an asshole.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, people were taking more breaks.
Yes.
People were getting recharged.
Yes.
Guess what? People were getting healthy. Less visits to the hospital. Like we essentially created a buddy system.
Yeah.
Right? We created a buddy system. And I think, Ryan, I mean, you tell me, but I think that was the game changer for us. I think that's like we all knew we needed to take breaks.
Yeah.
But the game changer was allowing each other to take breaks.
It was, and it changed it for each of us, and it changed it for the team at large, right? You said it, right? When everybody else started to see that happen, then it kind of gave them permission. You talked about it really early in the episode, where like if you've got a boss and you have a formal system for requesting time off, you've got that, right? But if you also never see your boss out of the office, like they're there when you show up, they're there when you leave, they don't talk about vacations, time off, anything else, you're not going to have this real high sense of comfort around using your vacation time, right?
100%.
And we played around with different mechanisms there, and they didn't really work, right? We were like, we won't track vacation time, it's unlimited, or we'll give you a bunch of it, okay? Because people felt like unlimited was like, well, I don't know how much that really means. Like, does that mean a week before you get mad at me? Is that a month? Like, I'm going to take a 6 month sabbatical. So nobody took any, right? So then we just gave a very generous amount of paid time off, and people still weren't taking it. Like when we look back at some of those early year utilization reports around PTO, it was appalling, right? Nobody was taking breaks, and it had an impact on the entire organization. And so, a well-rested founder and one who demonstrates the importance of that leads to a well-rested, energized, ready-to-go team. And I think that was the huge unlock. But I think you're right. It was the buddy system was the hack, right? It was us being honest with each other and supporting each other and celebrating those things that then led that and allowed it to spread to the rest of the team. Right. I just approved a request this morning. It's not even made up for this episode. That really happened. Somebody's actually taking a week off.
I think what you talked about there, though, we touched on, is this concept of multiplicity.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be able to manage our own energy, right? But what we really have to think about, if we're being clever, is how are we managing everybody else's energy?
Yeah.
Right? If I have 100 people working for me and my plan is to run them all into the ground, what am I really accomplishing?
Nothing.
Right? We're working so hard, this organization kills itself. Yeah, it does.
It does.
And you've got shitty workers now.
Right.
We mask that under this umbrella of dedication and hard work. What we lose when we look at that is it doesn't work that way. If I say, look, back to my hockey analogy, all my players play on the ice for 10 minutes because, they're the hardest working players. Like, no.
We also have the worst record in the league. Right?
Yeah,
we get our
the shittiest
asses
players
kicked every week.
Yeah, you as the coach should be getting everybody off the ice as often as possible so you can always have fresh legs back on the ice.
Yeah.
And the same applies to your organization. If you're like, hey, I never take vacations, I grind it out, and you basically instantiate that same behavior across all the people in your organization, you are taking a multiplying effect to your shitty behavior and applying it to everybody else. There's nowhere that ends positively.
No.
Again, the run through the wall mentality doesn't work. It doesn't hold up.
It doesn't.
All it leads to are shitty outcomes. And it took a long time for me to realize that.
All right. So let's put a bow on this thing. As founders, we are not amazing at this, right? We will just continue to run ourselves into the ground and unless we're given permission otherwise. So here's your permission, right? Here's your permission to start thinking about this. And let's go back through what we talked about today, right? It's having some milestones. Pick some points at which you've got some save game, right? And you can restore some hit points there. You can feel better. You can come back from that, right? And you're going to come back from that recharged, right? We need to keep this in mind, that this is not just a weakness. This is not an excuse. This is not just, I take time because I need it. You really do need it, but it's about more than that, right? You're going to come back a better version of you for having done this, right? So feel good about doing these things. Set that milestone, take that break, and feel good knowing that you're going to come back fully charged and ready to go. And then remember that this starts with you as the founder and that it will be pervasive throughout the organization, whichever way you play it. If you play that we're just going to run through the wall until we collapse, that's what's going to happen to your organization. However, if you take the other tact and you say, we're going to set milestones, we're going to recharge, we're going to celebrate people being in good shape, feeling good, mentally, rested and ready, then that's what will spread throughout the organization, right? Historically, we've been bad at this. Now's the time to change that. Here's your permission. Please set a milestone, take a little bit of a break, come back and go forth and kick ass at whatever it is that your startup does.